Other concrete manifestations of the spiritual self are the rituals and ceremonies, religion, magic, and witchcraft. Rituals are repetitive activities of the self that involve gestures, words, and actions to revere objects or occasions. These occasions represent significantly great historical value for the community. They could be a form of thanksgiving, invocation for wealth, health, prosperity, and so on. Moreover, rituals may be prescribed by the traditions of a community, including a religious community. Rituals are characterized but not defined by formalism, traditionalism, invariance, rule governance, sacral symbolism, and performance. The origin of ritual behaviors is very difficult to establish, despite being embedded in humanity since time immemorial, for it does not usually leave any material or physical evidence like artifacts or relics that could be discovered by scientists. However, their origin and development can be determined as best evidence for ancient rituals is the deliberate burial of loved ones and other still existing practices or forms that are still prevalent, which are too dearly connected to oneself. In the Philippines, the core ritual practices of Filipinos maintain the balanced connection between the self and that with the spirit world. These rituals involve offerings to Anito, including food, animal sacrifices, and valuable items to appease ancestor spirits and deities. On the other hand, ceremonies can refer to formal activities conducted by the self towards some solemn or important public or state occasion or formal religious or sacred observances that make the self feel a sense of fulfillment. While rituals are unified with the self for a purpose, usually consisting of several artistic components performed on a special occasion. Forms of rituals include magic action, which involves invoking supernatural forces or energies to achieve desired outcomes. Religious action consists of rituals performed in various religious traditions to express faith and devotion. Substantive rituals contain cultural significance, such as initiations and graduations. Rites of passage mark the transition from one stage of life to another. And finally, atonement and purification rites seek to remove guilt or impurity from a person or a group. The following are few examples of rituals and ceremonies tied up with Filipino self-birth and baptism. The birth of a child is a significant event in Filipino culture, considered as the biological and spiritual identity of a child, respectively. Weddings. Filipino weddings are typically grand events that bring together families and communities. This is a spiritual process of the self coupled with beliefs, honor, and vows. It is a personal experience for spiritual connection with other selves in faith of God's divine intervention and blessings. The funeral is a ritual too, a traditional and symbolic expression of the beliefs, thoughts, and feelings of a lost beloved. The funeral helps the self to acknowledge the reality of the death as a spiritual process that encourages the embracing of faith and beliefs about life and death and offers continuity and hope for the living. The function of ritual in the self is to provide rules for action or regulation of behavior, performance of the goals of the state, and strengthening social connection. Moreover, rituals and ceremonies are essential to human culture as they express various values and beliefs held by different individuals and communities worldwide. They establish new in-self and other self-relationships with social realities within a community. They serve many functions apart from their traditional expression of cultural artifacts, such as strengthening social bonds and a sense of community through shared emotional experiences. In the end, rituals and ceremonies create a bridge between the mundane and the sacred, marking the presence of the divine in daily life. Through repetitive acts, ceremonies and rituals offer a structure to religious practice, providing a rhythm to followers' self-lives and connecting them to their community and heritage. Rituals and ceremonies connect the self with its higher self and inner wisdom. Religion, magic, and witchcraft define the relation between the self and divinity. They are often viewed as sources of truth. Religion refers to a system of beliefs, symbols, and practices that have at least some supernatural elements. It engages with the human soul, the afterlife, the divine, and with other supernatural elements that influence people's lived experiences as well. Religion and the self. Religious views on the self vary widely. The self is a complex and core subject in many forms of spirituality. People believe that faith is an important part of self-concept, but at the same time, it helps them to be motivated by following the teachings of the holy books and scriptures. Thus, we can say that religious principle will help in self-knowledge. People become aware of their actions, but they also recognize temptations as well as past sins. Religions vary according to one's faith and tradition in their respective regions where they hailed. What is common to all is the consolations that one may feel, and the peace of hearts and minds they experience. Religion confers benefits to the self. Religion serves the self in a lasting and important manner, satisfying the psychological needs, which is a salient self, components to completing the whole self together with other components. Religion can play a big role in shaping self-concept. Many people describe themselves as spiritual, with a higher purpose than the pleasures of earthly life. With religious teachings, they would know what it means to be a good person, with a purpose and mission on earth. Moreover, faith is also an important part of self-concept, as they are motivated in following the teachings of the holy books and scriptures. Magic refers to a person's efforts to change their life through supernatural means. It differs from religious ones because the latter involve whole communities. In contrast, magic addresses individual needs. Magic is directed at very practical ends as articulated by an individual. The history of magic extends from the earliest literate cultures who relied on charms, divination, and spells to interpret and influence the forces of nature. Even societies without written language left crafted artifacts, cave art, and monuments that have been interpreted as having magical purpose. Magic and what would later be called science were often practiced together, with the notable examples of astrology and alchemy. Magic was invoked in many kinds of rituals and medical formulae, and to counteract evil omens. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that magic was the only viable defense against demons, ghosts, and evil sorcerers. Magic and the self. Magic is a form of manifestation, the ability to alter the self and the world around us through the power of intentional thought, force of will, and creative action. In recent times, magic is believed to assist individuals as they struggle with situations that are beyond rational control. Beliefs in magic can help the self deal with complex situations that the self would otherwise simply fail to comprehend, and instead can make the inanimate world more understandable. Magic can have many roles in relation to the self, including personal spiritual development. Many modern Western magicians view magic as a way to develop spiritually. Magic is a central part of modern paganism and the New Age movement. Self-esteem and confidence. Performing magic tricks can boost self-esteem because the performer can do something the audience can't. Transformation magic can be a form of manifestation, where the power of thought, will, and action can change the self and the world. Immersive rituals. Magic can involve rituals where people take on other identities to gain power, insight, or strength. Traditionally, witchcraft means the use of magic or supernatural powers to inflict harm or misfortune on others, and this remains the most common and widespread meaning. Belief in malevolent magic and the concept of witchcraft has lasted throughout recorded history and has been found in cultures worldwide, regardless of development. Most societies have feared an ability by some individuals to cause supernatural harm and misfortune to others. According to some authors, witchcraft and self-care go hand in hand. Every ritual, every spell, every meditation is an act of self-love. On the other hand, witchcraft is also a form of self-empowerment. Witchcraft isn't just spells and rituals, it's a declaration of power, an embrace of the inner divine. As we delve into spirituality and witchcraft, we must grasp the nuances that define each concept. At its core, spirituality is a personal journey of self-discovery, a quest to connect with something greater than ourselves, be it a higher power, the universe, or our inner selves. It's a path that transcends religious boundaries, offering a sense of purpose, meaning, and inner peace. In spirituality, practices may include meditation, prayer, yoga, energy work, and various personal growth and self-exploration forms. On the other hand, witchcraft is often shrouded in mystery and misconceptions. Contrary to popular belief, it's not a religion but a practice rooted in various spiritual traditions. Witchcraft encompasses various rituals, spells, and practices to harness natural energies and manifest desired outcomes. While spirituality and witchcraft may share some common ground, they diverge in several key aspects. Spirituality is primarily an inward journey, focusing on personal growth, self-awareness, and connecting with the divine. It's a path that emphasizes introspection, meditation, and cultivating a deeper understanding of one's place in the universe. In contrast, witchcraft is an outward practice that involves manipulating energies and using various tools and rituals. It's a more tangible and practical approach, often involving herbs, crystals, candles, and other physical elements to achieve specific goals or desires.